Well, hello again, and I hope you're having a wonderful day. Thanks again for joining me at the Dragon's Lair. I'm going to continue reading from Book 1 of the Dragon Within Saga, Convergence. This is available on Amazon if you wish to purchase it. I'd appreciate it because it would support me in my endeavors of continuing to be a writer. We left off where they just entered into the festival, and we kind of described the festival grounds a little bit. So let's continue on and see where Drin and his family are up to. There were 3 separate tournaments within the week-long extravaganza. Consequently, the participants were separated in regards to one of the 3 forms of martial combat: melee or hand-to-hand, ranged including the shooting or throwing of weapons, and magic. The only arena actually involving direct combat between 2 different participants was melee, because theirs was the only form where weapons could be adequately padded to prevent serious injury. The other 2 forms comprised of hitting either stationary or moving targets from either a stationary or moving location. However impressive it was to hit a moving target square in the center from a moving position with an arrow, or to blow up 3 targets simultaneously by shooting 3 beams of energy from one's hand, there is nothing quite as exhilarating as armed, and sometimes unarmed, combat, where each potential strike could end the confrontation. As such, the melee portion of the tournament always drew the largest crowds. And traditionally, the largest crowd was for the first battle because it pitted the defending champion, should he choose to participate and defend his title, against the combatant who presented it the least plausible to interrupt the champion's successful defense. And it was moments before this fight that those young men who recently turned of age were presented to the gatherers and honored. Because of the droves of attendees all walking toward the Lord's Arena for the first battle, my father instructed us all to hold hands so none of us would become lost, but more importantly, so we could all witness my presentation together as a family. After the customary protest by Hythlin stating she had passed the irresponsible young stage in her development and should not be made to hold hands for her safety, we were all connected, with my father leading, then Genola, then my mother, then Hythlin, and then myself. At this point, all we knew is that we were to go to the Lord's Arena. We did not know where or when or even how we would be approached with further instructions. Then, when we were in visual sight of the arena, my father saw a sign attached to a tree branch that read, "Selectees, this way." We turned slightly to the left and followed the instruction of the sign. Several feet away, there was another sign hanging from yet another branch, again instructing us to follow. After 3 more signs and 3 more agreements to follow and 3 more protests by Hythlin, we reached the sign that read, "Selectees, gather here." We were now on the far left of the arena and found ourselves standing amongst what looked to be 4 other families with 4 other young men, all waiting for instructions. From their attire, it appeared we were the only farmers in the group. 2 appeared to be from wealthy merchants, as their clothes were finer than I had seen from the common city dwellers and certainly more fine than ours. One appeared to be a city guard, but not a common guard, someone of advanced rank, evidenced by the yellow and black cloak he wore pushed back off his shoulders. Also, his was one of the only weapons I had seen that was not peace-bound, a privilege and necessity for the local peacekeepers. The final family appeared to be of common vocation, yet mildly successful, because while their clothes were not as fine as the first 2 merchants, they were still clean and well-pressed. Though we appeared, when all gathered together, to share not a single commonality between our families, there was one which clearly presented itself to all onlookers. Nearly everyone who passed by our gathering acknowledged our collective shared responsibility by stopping and quietly voicing perhaps the one phrase that everyone in the Silver Empire knew both the words to and genesis of: for the good of the Empire, for the good of us all. Could be heard whether the speaker was still too young to grasp its full significance, and merely did so out of a collective community-induced obedience, or old enough to fully feel the weight and importance of a statement responsible for supporting the foundational programs of an empire. Not differences in clothing, or nobility status, or calloused hands, or ability to read and write, nor daily chores, or martial ability could overshadow the singular and shared gravitational pull knitting our families seamlessly together on this day. We were all the same. We were all one. After a few minutes of standing and gracefully acknowledging the welcome comments from those passing by on their way to find seats for the opening match of the martial tournament, my father walked over to the guard and began talking. I could not hear what he was saying, as I was preoccupied with all of the other current activity, but when I was able to break my eyes and ears away, I looked to see if I could deduce the subject and nature of their conversation. When it appeared he had gathered all the information he could, he thanked the guard and his family, paid his respects to their son, and returned to us. It appears that we are to wait here for Lord Henchett's first advisor to come and give us instructions. Apparently, today's introduction at the tournament will continue much the same as it has since it began. The guard did tell me that there are rumors Lord Henchett is planning something special for this year's selectees, though no one seems to know what it is. Hythine was the first to speak up. "How long do we have to wait?" My mother responded, "As long as it takes." "Well, how long is that?" she said with a hint of her high-pitched whine. "I do not know. I am not the first advisor, so I do not know his schedule." "Why do we all have to wait here? Can you not take me and Janola to see one of the shows? Plus, I'm getting hungry." This time it was Janola who spoke up. "Hythlin, we all have to be here for Drin." "Fine. But I'm still hungry and I want to eat soon as we can," said Hythlin with a slight tone of resignation while still trying to issue a command. While looking around and trying to take in the familiar sights and smells of what could quite possibly be my final festival of the moon, I saw a squat, middle-aged man walking briskly toward us. His robe was black and yellow of our province, and he was holding some papers in his hands. Following him was a tall and slender young woman robed in similar fashion. Because the squat man's head was down, he did not notice a young child dart in front of him just as he was ready to cross the road and reach our gathering. As the young child got his first lesson on how difficult it is to stop when a significant amount of momentum is propelling an equal amount of mass by being sent sprawling to the ground, the squat man offered a verbal rebuke. "You need to watch where you are going. It serves you right for getting in the way of the Lord's business. Now get going before I call the guards on your parents for allowing you to run amok without the proper supervision to avoid mischief." As he finished his admonishment, I saw him incline his head to the young woman standing next to him. She nodded and walked over to the crying young boy who was now sitting on the dirt street. She knelt down beside him and produced something from her robes. I could not see what it was, but judging by the reaction it produced, instantly changing the boy's tears to a smile, it could have only been some form of candy. She whispered a few soft sentences to the boy, who nodded in response. He then got up and scampered happily away, still unaware of anything potential in his path. I glanced back toward the squat man and saw his eyes following the boy, while his mouth was set in an affectionate grin. We're going to stop right there and wonder, who is the squat man walking over to the selectees? We'll find out next time. And once again, thanks for joining in as I read from the Convergence. You guys have a great day again. Thank you for the support. And always remember, you know by now, to release your dragon within. Thank you.